Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net's Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Do you ever wonder when Spider-Man goes to the bathroom if the toilet paper sticks to his fingers?
You ever wonder why Superman wears his underwear outside of his pants?
My name is Imran.
My name is Anthony.
He's the Jock!
And he's the Nerd.
And we're your hosts for the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we sometimes try to attempt to answer these questions.
This is a full spoiler podcast, and we swear a lot.
Check it out for awesome geek news, interviews, and comic book reviews. Visit jockandnerd.com. We are your superhero TV, movies, and comic book culture curators.
Boom.
Jockandnerd.com. Jock and Nerd!
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to The Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Henno and Brian. Hi, guys.
Hello. Hola.
Well, who wants to start us out?
I will.
I'm pretty sure you still have to, Henno. Didn't you miss 3 weeks?
No.
No?
Oh, am I still making up?
I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
I think you're right.
Either way, we'll cover it by having you go first. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm quite right. So I'll leave the details of which would be more appropriate for an episode of Salty Language, which is Brian's other podcast if you want to check something that's not safe for work.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to G-raid this for everyone. I finally went back to the doctor to deal with my conjunctivitis because my eyes were just not getting better.
Jeez.
And I suddenly had some clues and I went in, and I had actually an amazing experience. I didn't have my regular doctor. He was all booked up for the day, but there's another woman that works there that I have seen before, and I really like her, and she spent so much time with me.
Oh,
It
I was gonna
so
say,
awesome.
I'm just picturing your doctor like hiding behind like a doorway, you know, kind of like trying to look out to see if you're there. Be like, is he gone yet? I am not looking at those eyes again. Like, like I've seen some stuff. Like, I ain't dealing with that.
Well, and I ended up with a really funny story with the whole thing, which was great. It was like, it was one of those things where you would think you'd be like, oh, that's terrible, and you're like, no, it's not terrible. That means there's a cure,
Right? Yeah.
So I went in, and she had the same. It was great. She got it. Like, she's like, all right, we're just gonna ignore all this other stuff and deal with what needs to be done. And
all
she
right,
was,
hold on.
like,
Sorry,
called-
Heno, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I have to ask you a question really quick. Is
What?
your dog about to fall off of that bed?
No,
Okay.
he's good.
From the angle that I'm looking at it at, it looks like he's like about 20% sliding off that bed.
No, his
Okay.
head's just on the edge of it.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, sorry, all right.
But he is doing the let the junk hang out.
Oh,
on his
for
back
sure, yeah.
move, which I love. Cracks me up.
All right, sorry about
So
that.
no problem. Yeah, she even called my optometrist
Mhm.
and talked to them, which it was just great. Like, she really spent a lot of time, and now they're just so computer connected too. They're really looking at everything. They're looking at everything I've done. And even was like, this light is terrible. It brought me into another room to look for some other lights and this and that. And in the end, it's like, okay, here's antibiotics, blah blah blah, and what pharmacy. And so I go back to work, and on the way home. Oh, and now so the other thing she said is, looked at my age. Have you had a colonoscopy yet? And I said, no, I haven't.
Like,
and she says,
trying to see in both ends? Like, what's going on here?
So she said, I'm 53. I just had my first, and I'm scheduled for surgery to have about a foot of my, some intestine removed because they found cancer.
I actually
And,
know
no
somebody
symptoms,
who
nothing.
I know somebody who went early because his dad died of colon cancer, and they found something that they have to go in and do surgery to remove too. So, thank goodness he went, because had he not gone, who knows,
That's it.
Yep.
And so her thing was my goal is to get one every day, to get someone.
I was like, wow, that's aggressive.
Exactly. And I'm like, well, it's 9:00. I figure you can go home now because you got yours.
Yeah, right. That's the way to do it, right? Get in there, knock it out in the first hour, and go home. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, and I'm all for the preventative things, and especially on the scale. They're constantly the PST. I can't remember what the thing is for the prostate. P something. Anyhow, that when it was like, all right, get that number. Then you check that number.
Yeah,
and
it's
see if it changes.
PSA, I believe it is.
PSA, that's it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And and the colonoscopy is another one, and it's always been like, okay, what age do we do this, and this? But it's pretty much a set thing. 50, boom, you go get one. And I'm like, no problem. So she called it in, and I just had a hell of a week last week. So my boss was on vacation for 2 weeks, and our developer came in for a visit, and it's one of those things where we go through his entire unit usually and look at everything, but James is the one that usually does it. It takes him about an hour. It took me about 2 hours because there was so much stuff in the unit that I'd never seen before, and then I started getting to fixing things, and not everything was easy, and and him not being there was just one less person to deal with. We just have people there right now, so it's just it's anything from routine stuff like toilet's not working, doors not opening, to we're having cooling problems. But it was a little bit stressful, and so I never called and did my referral. So I did my referral call today, and so tomorrow I'll go in for the consultation, and then August something will will be the actual colonoscopy. But here's the thing: is that when I was with her and I said, "So I hear the night before was kind of a interesting experience," and she says, "Yeah, they give you some things to kind of clear the pipes out," and I was like,
Yep.
Okay, and she said, "Oh, I had this, blah blah blah," and just kind of joked around a little bit. But I walked out of there really feeling like it's so great to just get that level of care that I just don't feel like we get anymore. And both of my last two experiences with my eyes have been like that, where legitimately I feel like somebody was, taking care of me, listening to me, addressing my needs, that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, I go and get the antibiotics, and it turns out they were one single dose antibiotics, meaning it was like 2,000 milligrams.
Dang. Yeah.
4 500 milligram tablets. And so I got home and I threw that down, and I was like, I'll wait a little while before I eat. And then I finally make some food, and I was on the couch just kind of, because I really hadn't been feeling good at all. I'm just low motivation. I'm obviously I have an infection, I'm not feeling well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm lying on the couch just playing some video games, reading a little bit, and all of a sudden I was just like, grumbly. Uh-oh. Like, well, that's what the colonoscopy is going to feel like.
Yeah, it's funny.
Those antibiotics basically killed my entire digestive biome.
Wow.
In shots. I mean, it was like... And that's why I said, if I was on a salty language, I'd give you the gory details.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Fair enough.
Yeah, my brother just recently, within the last 6 months, I think it was, had a colonoscopy, and he said that part of it was no fun, but he said the part that they never mentioned to you is the day or two after. He's like, you have horrific gas, like all day, basically, like you just can't stop. He's like, so basically, he's like, they were like, yeah, you're probably not going to want to go anywhere the day before because you can't. Yeah. And yeah, he goes, yeah, he's like, I didn't want to go anywhere for a few days. So, yeah.
Luckily, I already take a probiotic, so I just like quadrupled that just to rebuild right away. I was like, oh, we got to get. And it was weird because when I don't feel well, I instantly go to like comfort foods, and I was one step away from self-loathing, meaning I got the orange creamsicles because they're like a complete comfort food for me, like reminds me of childhood.
Yeah, right.
And you're 6 in a box, and I crushed 5 of them in one night.
Nice.
But because I had no like digestive biome really established yet, I felt horrible the next day. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, well, at least I eat that 6.
Yeah, at least you showed restraint. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well restrained.
Yeah, you're like, if I
really
eat 5, I'm good. If I eat 6, I'm a savage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the only thing.
There was one that was kind of melted that I felt like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. Oh no, I'm drinking it.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Delicious. Yeah.
But
put some ice cream in there.
It just
delicious.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw it right into a bowl.
Yeah. Melt a creamsicle, put ice cream in it.
And it with it, exactly. Yeah. Just, load it up. Plus I have a dairy allergy. This is going real well.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
But the good news was and then the other thing that was weird is my eyes, obviously, our bodies adjust, and my eyes had been just watery all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now they were dry as can be. I was waking up in the middle of the night just like,
oh, geez.
Like, moisture, just something, anything. Yeah. It was really funny. But by the weekend, everything had kind of mellowed out. Today, everything's awesome, and I instantly felt better. And it was just another reminder for me that if I'm sitting around doing nothing, it's for a reason. That's not who I am.
Right.
I don't tend to spend days on end sitting on the couch at night, just mulching. There was something definitely wrong, and I felt better. And it's like the last 2 days I've gone to the gym, and my boss came back today, which I was stoked about, just a little take some of the pressure off, and just the busy time and all that. And we just have a lot of people in town, which is great. I love it. We have a lot of our owners are here, and a lot of people we don't get to see very often. So that was kind of my week. It was entertaining in certain ways. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, right.
But overall, really good. I had a great gig on Wednesday. We there's every Wednesday night at this one place. They actually have an outdoor stage. It's really kind of fun. Play at it's a burger pub kind of a place, and every Wednesday night they call it the Back Alley Party, and they feature a local nonprofit. And so they'll bring in a couple of kegs, and they do a raffle, and people buy food, but all the beer goes to the raffle goes to whichever nonprofit is featured. And so for Wednesday night, it was the Advocates, which is a group that helps women who are experiencing abuse, need a place to go to, that kind of a thing. They even have a secondhand store, the Advocates Attic. It's an organization I really support because people have an opportunity to have access to drug and alcohol counseling and just counseling in general, and a place to live if they need to.
Yeah, I was going to say if not, get you out of or help get you out of a terrible environment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And turns out Tom, the singer in the band, he's the president of their board too, which was awesome. And they it was a great cause. We had a huge turnout, and it was a great opportunity to play some music, to do something I love, and know that it was going to, that the benefits were going to an organization which is really crucial in our area, especially in Idaho. Just being we don't have a lot of public options for people. We just don't. It's just not the kind of state that this is, and so a lot of it is community outreach, and this is one very important community group in this area. And so that was really great. And then my other gig got I have a bunch of gigs that all got canceled because the venue we play at has to tone down the drums because they've had too many noise complaints. And I was like, thank goodness. I'm so done. It's been great playing, but I need a rest. Yeah, that was my week in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you finally got that eyes sorted out.
Oh gosh, so great.
Yeah. Oof.
Well, I'll go next. So I've been doing pretty much, a good old average week, so nothing too crazy. Up until Friday, and I hate to bring everybody down, but so I was at work Friday morning, and we got a text from my dad saying, what happened. And I looked, and unfortunately, at our local plant for the company that I work for, 2 gentlemen were in a grain silo, and got caught there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Away.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I work for a company that's very big on their employees. They're very employee-centric, and so it hit the company very hard, as any death should hit a company very hard. But it just... So the atmosphere in the office, of course, was sad and very, very down on Friday. And with me being as sensitive as I am, even though I didn't know the guys, not only am I feeling bad for them, I'm feeling awful for my coworkers, and I'm absorbing their energies back into me. And so I'm fighting through it, and I'm like, you know what? I get this. I'm not going to cry at work, even though technically it probably could be considered appropriate given the circumstances. It still would. I'm a new employee. I didn't know the guys, so it would be odd. So I'm like, no, I'm holding my stuff together. I'm not going to cry at work. So I fought through it on Friday, and I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. So I was wiggling my toes. I was doing my breathing exercises. I was going through all of my tools, my tool chest, to kind of manage through all of the emotions and stuff. And so I did good. So Friday was good. I made it through, and when I got out of work, I called my mom and talked to her for an hour. Then I called my dad and talked to him for an hour. Got all my talking out. And then I ended up having a fairly good weekend. Trying to think what we ended up doing. Oh, Saturday, we got a bunch of new furniture because my mother-in-law sold their lake house. So we inherited a bunch of furniture from the lake house. So I rearranged the furniture in my house, which was fun in 100-degree weather. Thankfully, I'm in air conditioning. Unpacked my kitty cats, which are some of my prized possessions, and I put them in their due shelf where they belong. And then Sunday, I helped to drop a gas tank from a truck, which was entertaining. This was, honestly, the whole weekend has been, Saturday was pretty just me doing my own thing. But even Sunday, my husband was working on replacing the brake lines in his truck. And to replace the brake lines, he had to drop the gas tank out of the way to get to the brake lines. That's why we had to do all that. Well, he's he gets very frustrated, which is understandable, as mechanics will, when they're trying to work in very tight and closed places. So, again, it's kind of making sure that I manage through absorbing some of, his frustrations and stuff like that, and not mirroring it back and just kind of letting it wash over me, not internalizing it, and just, again, focusing on different things like, wiggling my toes and all this other stuff so that I'm not absorbing it myself, because it's not directed at me. I know it's directed at the car.
Right.
But being around it can have a negative effect on me. So, so I did that on Sunday. I'm trying to think what else happened Sunday. And then I don't remember. See, it was important that I don't remember. I was going to tell you guys something else. I don't remember what it was. Oh, well. Anyway, so I went into work again this morning, and they ended up having, which kind of speaks to who this company is that I work for. They had grief counselors on site.
That's smart.
At the plant and the corporate headquarters. They had assigned times for grief counselors, and then at 3:00, company-wide, everyone stopped working and had a moment of silence.
Wow.
And then at the corporate headquarters, they brought us all up because we have a statue in the middle of our entryway. That's basically, it's like the company motto about working together, we're stronger as one type of a thing. They had everybody gather around, put their hands on the statue, and if you can't reach the statue, you reach the person in front of you. So we were all connected, and he did non-denominational prayer, which is pretty unusual in today's, because this is I believe they're Fortune 500, if not Fortune 500, they're close to. They're, at least I know they're on NASDAQ, so it's like a fairly large company, and for them to have even a non-denominational prayer is kind of a unusual thing, but it was really nice the way they did it. And again, they stopped work from 3 to 3:05. It was just 5 minutes. Everyone in the company stopped working just to make sure that we can honor these people.
Wow.
But yet I didn't cry.
Nice.
Close.
Wow.
Trust me, I was very close multiple times. I couldn't talk, but I did not cry. Not one tear fell.
Wow.
Which is pretty strong for me to be able to do that. That's unusual.
Yeah.
But telling you folks, wiggling the toes, every time I was close to crying, I wiggled my toes, and all of a sudden the feeling went away. Because again, I don't know what it is about it, but just something about it just distracts me, takes my mind off of what I'm thinking. I don't know, increases the blood flow. We've talked about all the different positive things on the show before, but something about it just makes a difference for me.
Yeah.
So I made it through, and so I was pretty. It's so tough because I hate to say I'm proud of myself for not crying because I want to be owning my emotions.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, but it's owning my emotions in the appropriate manner is what it comes down to. It is, yes, they're there. Yes, I have every right to be sad. And as we've talked about with emotion, it just is. It's not right or wrong. It's not anything. It just is. I'm sad, and that's okay. I can live in the sad and just move through. But I have to move through it at some point. And I can't wallow in it either.
Yeah. So
it's finding that balance and working through it and doing it in I'm trying to think of the right word I want to use, as non-disruptive in my life as possible. And so I think that was really where I was going for, is trying to be is not have it disrupt my world as much as possible.
Yeah.
And while I'm managing through it. So, but so that was my week. Nothing too crazy one way or another, but definitely had some moments to work through. So, how about you, Brian?
Oh, what did happen this week? Yeah, I didn't do much this week. I was trying to think. I was like, yeah, I really haven't done a whole lot this week. Yeah, it's I didn't go out much because it was 100 degrees for like 2 or 3 days this week, and it was just humid and bleh, which plus as usual, those things usually tend to like the humidity especially tends to give me headaches. So now I'm going to sit here and yawn because I think I've got one coming on now. I can't really think of much I did this week. I went out with my brother a few times and hung out with him and stuff. And, I really haven't done much this week. I hadn't really thought about it. I got some stuff done that I wanted to, like, some stuff I've been wanting to put on eBay. I've been, working on that, and, that's about it. Like, I really have not done much this week. It's, I went and got, like, vegetables and stuff today at the fruit and vegetable store up the street here, and it's so hard for me to deal with people in these environments. Sometimes it's just weird. So I'll just tell this one, because the problem with this place is I love it, but the aisleways that they have are very narrow. You almost can't put 2 carts down the same aisle. So people kind of mosey around because they don't know what the place has, in stock at the time or whatever. So they you mosey, and for the size the store is, the carts they have are too big. They need either like ones that aren't as wide or something like that, so that so you can have better movement through the store. But whatever. But while I was checking out, I had my cart lined up with like the counter, and so it wasn't sticking out, blocking anyone's path. And this older woman came up and basically, like if you made a T, she crossed the T essentially for me. And she just stood there staring into my basket. And I'm standing there, whatever, as the woman's, scanning my stuff, and I'm grabbing it and setting it in the basket, and she just keeps looking, and I look up at her, and I'm like, can I help you with something? and she just looks like, and it's like, oh no, and then she just moves on, like leaves the store, like, and I'm like,
okay,
like, oh, well, I mean, you know, it's like, did she have, you know, is it just like a brain fart kind of situation, or did she, you know, like, did she have some sort of, you know, I don't know, episode of something, like, what, you know, it's like, it was just weird, you know. But, yeah, because even the cashier afterwards, after the woman left, the cashier was like, that was weird.
She obviously liked the cut of your jib.
Yeah. It's like, I guess. Yeah, it was strange. I don't know. I was half expecting her to just reach in and grab something, you know? Like,
like,
snatch
hey,
my
that looks
apples.
good.
Yeah. Ah, sucker! Like, there's a whole pile of them over there. I can go get more.
We're in salty language. Snatch my apples would be going a whole different direction.
Actually,
Yes,
Snatch
it
My
would
Apples
be.
probably would be the name of the episode.
It would be the name of the episode
Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
Yeah, it was
Snatching apples.
that was so strange. But yeah, I like I said, I haven't really done much. I've been, you know, helping my brother kind of set up something he's trying to do here. So that's been kind of cool, I guess. But that's about it. It's been a pretty boring week. Played more video games this week than I have in a while. Realized that much like anything else, the whole, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it thing also applies to video games. I have a baseball game where, you know, the hitting is based on timing, and I do not have it.
Timing is no longer.
I was terrible. You know, it's no big deal or whatever, you know, and it's not like that won't come back. It's just a matter of getting the, you know, but I was just swinging early at everything, and it's, you know, it's like, no, you just got to wait an extra second. And next thing you know, swing early. Like, dang it. And then I'm chasing pitches and going, you know, because at a certain point, it's like a real batter. Like, after a while, you start getting desperate, you know? You just want to hit so bad that you're chasing anything that's near the strike zone or 10 feet above the strike zone. So that was kind of funny. I was laughing pretty hard at myself because of how just terrible I was doing at it. But yeah. So yeah, I guess that's what I got for the week.
Woo.
Yeah, I know. Busy week for me.
We all have those weeks sometimes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, our article tonight, our topic tonight was brought to us by Hanno. Hanno, you want to get us started off?
Yes, so in the news this last week was a story about the television show, the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why, and that they had edited out the graphic suicide scene out of the show. And the basic reason for it was there's a lot of consultation done with this show, a professional consultation, and with suicide groups, and we'll post the articles you can get into and read about them. But there was one study that found that males between the age of 10 to 17, the suicide rate, and not attempts, but actual suicide rate, jumped nearly 30% in April of 2017 when after the show came out, and remained higher for that year.
Wow.
And that the study estimated that 195 more suicides occurred in 2017 in this age group than would be expected given current trends. And they, furthermore, this is the main stories that I chose is in the Atlantic, and the support of this study is in the New York Times. And the New York Times goes on, they asked about women or girls, but that what it is that females of all ages are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide, but males are 4 times more likely to complete it. and any increase among girls may have come in attempts, and the study didn't look at attempts, it just looked at completions. And the numbers were high enough that it made the show producers, because like I said, they were very conscious of it from the get-go, and from the beginning of the show about what the effect was going to be. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because there's one kind of little surprising paradox in that by having this show on, a lot of people became very empathetic to mental health and suicide, and there was a lot of awareness, and a lot of people got a lot out of it from the standpoint of they became very understanding, and they started to maybe, see people's struggles in a new light. But among another group, it was something to emulate. And it is a strange thing that the thing that we say we should talk about, maybe we shouldn't.
It's so odd.
Wow.
Isn't it?
That is. That's really a difficult spot.
And that it comes down to this is from the Atlantic article. So the what do you say? The mixed results speak to the fact that different people can have very, very different responses to the same cultural product. Anything short of a well-done educational documentary is probably going to have a very, very heterogeneous level of impact. And that in the end, after much discussion, the team decided that the specific scene of Hannah's death was too potentially risky to justify its continued inclusion, particularly given the fact that the third season's release would inevitably bring new young viewers to the show. Yeah, and it was really wild because it's just I was driving along and I just kind of stopped, and I was like, oh, okay, here we want to shine a light on something, but maybe we don't want to, because children emulate things.
Yeah.
They, we there's a history of this. I mean, there's a reason the Tide Pod thing. I mean, we can joke about YouTube trends.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why things go viral and people do, copy each other. Yeah. And the fact that the dramatization of suicide may have,
unintentionally contributed,
to more suicides, and it contraindicates the idea of
not power.
Well, that's so tough, because normally I'd be like, if you just brought this idea to me, right? Like if you had just said, I don't know about the idea of them putting it in there because it's probably going to lead to more kids doing this, I'd be like, because I don't know. There's been, over the years, how there's been all these things where people,
that's the thing.
There's all these things over the years too, where it's like people try to draw, create correlation, and it isn't there, or you may have correlation but not causation, kind of a situation,
Exactly. But the idea of contagion has been known for years.
True. Yeah. And you're right that, because I remember on the documentary I believe that Netflix has on this, they talked about why they decided to include that scene, because they wanted it to be stark and shocking, because they felt that it kind of would jar some people.
Horrific, and it would dissuade people.
Well, and that it would wake some people up to how horrible this is, that this suicide's not something to be romanticized, Romeo and Juliet, that it's something that,
comedy.
And we talked about this stuff before, with that scene and everything, and I was kind of like, when it happened and I was watching, I was like, whoa, they actually showed it, because I fully expected it to be a shot where, like, the parents walk in and you just see that shot from next to the tub with, like, maybe, like, her arm hanging over the side of the tub, kind of a thing or something. And nope, they full on, like, they show her actually, cut her wrists and everything. But wow, and
So
I know the
the
suicide rate had gone up anyway. We talked a little about that on here, where the suicide rate over the last, I forgot how many years, has gone up like 25%.
Yes,
which is alarming. 30%
Yes.
in males is,
and they
man.
yeah,
Sorry.
and the study tried to take into consideration that plus seasonal,
Sure.
trends and all those kind of things like that. And just try to look at, like, based on average trends, was there, did something happen that was different? And that's what they're looking at. And again, this is still a possibility.
Yeah, of course.
You want to see more, but like if I were a television show, because here's the like I brought up the one thing that got talked about when I heard about this was they talked about the contagion aspect.
Yeah.
And how that is common with suicides.
Yeah.
That there is this clustering. But like you said, Brian, it's not necessarily, there's a lot of just correlation.
Right. It's not necessarily the cause, but
and here's the the other thing. You'll probably get a lot more information from girls and women who attempt versus boys and men who succeed.
True.
I'm sure there's all these factors in there that become part of it. It's like, okay, well, you can't exactly go talk to them. Okay, now you have to research journaling and online this or family things. And we all know, I mean, mental health and any sort of depression or anxiety from whether it's drugs, life, blah, blah, blah. What do? We isolate.
Mm-hmm.
The time that when someone finally decides to do it was the time that they didn't call anybody.
Right.
We've talked about it here over and over again, and so it's kind of hard to go back and say, "Oh, well, why'd you do it?" It's
right.
You're like, "Oh, well, I heard that so and so did," but there are known incidences where someone at a school commits suicide, and then they have increase because of the contagion factor.
Yeah.
But it really made me think. It made me stop and think. Are there things? I mean, were there? We don't talk about that. Going back 50 years more. Oh, we don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
In polite company or in society or whatever. It's like, oh, there are things that are just better left unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
And like, maybe sometimes there are things better left unsaid.
Yeah.
Well, this comes up quite frequently, not necessarily just around suicide, but around sex education. How much is too much? What age is the correct age? People have said for many years that maybe we are indoctrinating our children and teaching our children about sex education too young, and which is causing an influx of young pregnancies and stuff like that.
Yeah, studies though lately have kind of gone against that.
Well,
the average age of sex has actually gone up a lot lately.
Mm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's actually something that I think it's been within the last 5 years for sure. Studies have shown, and Jenny could have a whole lot of different factors. I'm not saying what the cause is, but statistically, children are having sex later for the first time.
Yeah,
which is awesome. But it just comes down to, again, I'm not saying that it's the discussion is usually the same, which is how much is too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we're doing the right thing and we're hitting the right note then with sex education. If that is, if it's trending the right way, then maybe we are doing the right thing and saying the right things. But when maybe suicide, if it's trending the wrong way, then maybe we are saying too much. And it's so confusing.
Well,
it's so difficult to know.
Something else that I'm noticing is, like you said, like with the whole contagion concept, and like you pointed out with something catches on YouTube and then everybody's doing it, type of thing. And, for a long time, it's weird, I've known plenty of people that were bullied, unmercifully as, kids and stuff that are in our age groups. And when you talk to them, and I've asked different people when they tell me they were bullied, and I always will be like, "Did you ever consider killing yourself?" And the answer almost every time is no. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the case, 100% of the time across the board. Blah, blah. That's just my sample size, which is not very large. It is not a scientific study of any kind. But you find now that you look at how many teens are killing themselves over stuff that is the same stuff that, like, we went through as kids. And it's like, but that idea just really wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't floated.
Yeah, and it's the same idea of saying, like, well, we never thought about picking up a gun and bringing it to school and killing everybody.
Yeah.
But this generation obviously has.
Yeah.
And Jen, to your point about sex, I think there's a lot of people that would say, oh, well, we're putting these ideas of non-binary or gender fluid ideas, that we're putting these ideas in their heads, and whereas before it was just better because yet the idea of somebody growing up feeling uncomfortable in their skin just horrifies me.
That's a perfect thought, though. Yeah, it's like, think about it. Like when you were a kid, Henno, or when we were kids, Jen. Like, how many people did you ever hear say anything along the lines that they were born into the wrong body or whatever, or were confused about their sexual identity type stuff?
Had gender dysmorphia or something like that. Never heard that.
And I'm not saying it didn't exist. We just didn't hear about it. Now, again, you always have to, the internet is a bullhorn, so obviously you're going to hear more stuff than when we were kids or when our parents were kids or whatever, because just communication's gone that way. But it is interesting how, these generational differences. And again, I'm not saying that kids our age didn't think of suicide. I did. I was one that did. But it was after years of bullying. It wasn't like immediately or whatever. And some of these kids that have killed themselves over some of the bullying, I mean, some of it's been terrible, because they didn't want their families to find out they were gay or just examples like that. Yeah. And it's, it's horrible. You should never feel that way.
I thought about it, and I had the most normal childhood ever.
Right. I had a really good childhood too.
I remember thinking about it. I remember thinking about the idea of what if I killed myself when I was 14, 15 maybe?
Yep. From about 12 to 15, I was really thinking about it a lot.
And I thought about it, and I had there's nothing in my life to, I got picked on, I got bullied, that kind of stuff, but it was easy. I had enough privilege in my existence that I didn't need to be around that stuff. I could, if I got bullied somewhere, I just go there anymore, and it's like my mother never batted an eye at me, like not wanting to go down to school for 6 months. They just thought I had a good book, I mean,
well, it's like I think, like with me, I think unbeknownst to me at the time, I think a lot of what kept me from actually doing it was the fact that I had such a counterbalance at home. Like, to all the horrible things that kids were saying and whatever to me at school, I'd come home and it was nothing but support, love, all that kind of stuff. So, but, like going back to the overall topic here, it's like, I love how this show, I've read so many things and known so many people who sat down with their kids and watched this. And I love the fact that so many people I know who weren't, like you said, Henno, who weren't really necessarily open to the idea of talking about this, started a conversation. Yeah. And that's great.
And that's where I'm getting at with bringing up our childhoods is, what if we had that? What if we had this? What if our parents sat us down with this?
Yeah.
What, and I had no reason to kill myself. I had, nothing, but I thought about it. Now, what if I did have, some sort of gender, issue, whether it was, very extreme,
or even just depression,
or some real emotional difficulty, struggles, that kind of thing. what if I had that and my mother sat me down and said, let's watch this TV show.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm kind of going on with this whole thing is parents still have such a responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
That I can't even fathom, and there's a reason I'm not a parent.
I'm the same way. This is the kind of stuff that when you think about this is how someone parents this, it terrifies you. But it should. It really should terrify you because this is a heavy subject. This isn't, you have a little boo-boo. This is like if things aren't handled well, somebody could be dead. And I'm not blaming parents at all for that. I'm not at all shifting, saying that they're to blame, blah, blah, But that's the truth of the matter is that if you don't get through to the kid, they could kill themselves, and that's a horrible spot to be in for anybody, for any situation, that if you mishandle, and, it's like being a negotiator for the police, it's like one little misstep and someone could die, and that's horrible.
I have no expertise in this field whatsoever.
Same here.
I have I've had very conservative views on these things before, and today I have very liberal views on these things. And even though I feel that communication is paramount and openness is the most important thing, the way that we can be with each other, that having amazing communication with your children is one thing. Showing them stuff, maybe not the best thing to do. Like, it's one thing to talk about drugs, but to then show them drugs, show them somebody on drugs, maybe not so good. I don't, that's me just thinking on the top of my head.
Right.
And this idea that maybe watching a suicide is not the best thing in the world, but having a discussion about it, I just hope that this leads to more discussion and more study. But how do you research this? The only way you can reach, unfortunately, this is one of those ones where you don't sit there and say, we're going to have a study. We're going to show a bunch of children suicides and see what they do.
Right.
Right.
I mean, yes, they do psychological evaluations, and I think that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to sit down with a control group, and you have to do psych evaluations before something, and then do reevaluations afterwards, and hope that the subjects are being honest.
Well, and also, like you had said earlier, whenever you have people who fail their suicide attempts, getting as much information as you can out of that person. Like, what made you want to do this? What gave you the idea to do blank as your way of trying to kill yourself? What, like just asking those questions, because if the answer keeps coming up, I saw it on 13 Reasons, then you go, that gives you a very strong line there. Even that, you still have to be careful with, but it's still, I'll say this, at first, when I first heard they were doing this, I was like, really? And then when I read why, and I was like, oh yeah, that's actually a really good reason.
We all thought that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how it is today. Awareness, communication, these things are important. Like, that's why this really hit me, is because why are we doing this podcast? Awareness.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually was really surprised originally that they didn't put like two versions, essentially. One with the scene, one without the scene, kind of a thing to, so parents could kind of decide if they wanted to watch the show with their kids or whatever, kind of, do I want to show them or do I not want to, and whatever. And I'm actually a little surprised they didn't do that now, that they don't have, like, here's the uncut version, here's the whatever version, that way. Because, as an adult, I could watch that and I can process that, but, in the end, it's like, if you're the producers of it, you see numbers like that, even if there isn't a direct causation, you go, you know what? There might be correlation, and if so, let's remove ourselves from as much of that as possible so that we're not contributing to the problem
Well, and
you know,
this is the controversy, though, is that professionals told them not to do this.
Mm-hmm.
They told them beforehand that they did not recommend this because of contagion and blah, 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 and they decided to do it anyway. And a lot of the professionals, this is right from the article, that what the professionals thought, well, there's no way that the show can change it now. Well, obviously they could.
Yeah.
And now the show does it. You know, again,
Okay, so so essentially at this point, the way they're looking at it is though it's trying to put the horse back in the barn, basically. Or,
well, they quite easily changed it.
Yeah.
And they could have changed it then based on because there's interviews in this article with clinical psychologists that were consulted prior to the show's release.
Yeah, that was something I believe they talk about in the documentary, or maybe it was an article I read, one of the two, where they talked about how they consulted with a lot of experts before making the decisions. And it sounds, from what I read or heard or whichever it was, that they didn't take any of these things lightly, that they really did understand that there was a weight to this scene.
And they had the mixed results.
Yeah.
Like, as they were listening to people, they had the mixed results coming in.
That's one of the beautiful parts about Netflix.
It.
You know, like when a show like that drops, people weren't going, oh yeah, I'm going to take a few weeks and watch. It was boom and you're done with it. You know, people were binging it. So you're getting feedback immediately. So if you're getting people right away telling you, this isn't good, like you said, they easily could have just shut it down for a quick second, cut that scene, put it right back up. How long would that have taken?
Like, Netflix commissions its own study, and the study says this is where the empathy, there's increased empathy for others after watching this, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's confirmation bias.
Oh, yeah, totally. You're right. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it definitely is.
And then another study said that viewers who watched the second season were less likely to consider harming themselves. So those were these mixed results. So I just, and I really appreciate the discussion on this, because my main goal for this is for parents and their kids to do your research, do your own, talk to your family professionals, talk to people you trust, whether it's clergymen, whether it's professional psychologists, psychiatrists, whoever it is, reach out. Don't take the words of a television show's study.
Yes. That's
because
true. Yeah.
That study might not be the one that you should be reading.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be the one about contagion. I don't know. But
there's also, like when you watch a show like this, there obviously I like that it opens a conversation, but there also needs to be, you need to take a quick step back and go, okay, we have to grain of salt this, because in the end, it's a TV program. It's meant to entertain, so it's not, a lot of the stuff in there is not necessarily, characters don't necessarily react the way people would. The behaviors of people aren't necessarily done well in some of it. Like there's a lot of critique on the show by various psychologists, psychiatrists, and other, experts that I've read, where they really didn't like some of the stuff in the show. So like you said, don't just watch the TV show and go, this is canon, like basically do some external research. I'm going to plug it again. I've plugged it on here various times before, but I'll have the links to the Shrink to Shrink podcast with our pal Courtney on there, where he and another, I can't remember, is she every time, I gotta learn this, whether she's a psychiatrist or psychologist, I can't remember, but anyway, they watched the season of that show, and they broke down, they reviewed it from their perspective as professionals, and there's some really good insight into some of it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that both of them were kind of like, about the suicide scene, so that's definitely a listen that you should have if you're somehow just new to the show, or even if you've watched it, just go listen to those episodes. They have 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2, that were both really well done. Because I asked nicely and they did it for me. So,
and I I just want to remind everybody as well. I think this is a great time to just really get to know your child. I mean, it's so important that as your child's growing and changing and, you know, getting older and stuff, put your phone down, make them put their phone down. Really try hard to connect and know your kid. You know, is this something that's appropriate for your child? Because, you know, a kid like me, this would horrify me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have nightmares because I'm that sensitive, that type of stuff. So for a child like me to see stuff like that would be traumatizing. And, you know, my mom and I were very close, so she would know that type of thing, and I don't think we would have had that. We would have had a different type of conversation than maybe have this show. But it's all about really knowing your child and understanding what's going to work best for them.
And I can't implore you enough that if you are going to watch the show with your kid, watch it yourself first.
Yeah.
Well, for multiple reasons. One, so you can kind of, you know, see if there's anything maybe there that's a little for them. But also so maybe you can be ahead of the curve as far as, you know, be prepared maybe for questions they may have, you know, type of a thing.
And Courtney's partner is Dr. Colleen Mullen, she is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember
what her title was. She has a doctorate as well in the field. Yeah, I just want to give the right information.
Yeah,
Colleen's
thank you.
Great. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is. I just totally blanked. And you'd think, since I'm talking about it, that, you know, I would, you know, quietly pull up the information like a professional.
I got you, buddy.
But nope.
I got your back.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and it's shrink the number 2 and shrink.
Yeah.
So if you put those together on any pod catcher, you know, Stitcher, yada yada.
Yep. And I'll have the direct links in the show notes if you just want to listen to them that way, right from their page. Shoot, there was something else I was just going to mention. I forgot. Dang it. I don't remember now.
Well, guys, what do you think?
Yep.
It was a pretty good conversation.
It sure was.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Always. You know, it's one of those topics that, and we've been guilty of it to an extent too, even, you know, because everybody is. You know, I mentioned a long time ago, actually I don't think, well, I'm sure I mentioned it at some point on here. I know I did on Salty Language, but that, you know, like after a celebrity commit suicide or something like that, that we talk about it for a week roughly, and then because it's the nature of the world now, you know, things cycle, you know, no matter what it is, whether it's outrage or something good in the world, you know, things just cycle on and we, you know, move to the next thing. And, you know, this is definitely something, especially when you look at those numbers, 25% across the board, you know, going up, and 30% in males. It's like, you know, here I was, like, up until recently, it's like, man, I assumed because I've heard more guys talking about things. More guys are finally going to therapy. This is all becoming less taboo. I figured that number for guys would be going down because for years and years, guys just didn't talk to anybody. They would just go kill themselves. That was kind of how they handled, you know, some guys handled these things. And now it sounds like that's, you know, kind of coming back, and that's horrible. Yeah, that's unacceptable. I mean, we can't have that kind of number. That's way too much, you know. I mean, 0 is the only acceptable number, but, you know, like, whew. Oh, I remember what else I was going to say. I was going to mention that I think we're in a weird place with some parents, too, that there's times where you might be able to use tragedy as a teaching moment. In that, I think a lot of kids now actually may have reference to somebody at school or something like that having killed themselves. And if this happens, you know, it's a great time to sit your kid down and discuss with them this kind of stuff. And if they're hurting from it, you can kind of be like, hey, I'm asking you these things because, we don't want other people to go through what you're going through right now. Like these kind of things, to where I think you can kind of take, you're being a parent, but I think you're kind of taking a step down a little bit from being a parent to where you're really you're treating them as an emotional equal to an extent. Rather than talking down to somebody, or just being parent, It's a little off topic, but it's relevant. It's that I listened to, I forgot what podcast it was, and this guy is he does a show where he gives parenting advice, and he talked about how he took his kids to a burrito place, and his son ate all of his burrito. His daughter asked if she could take part of hers home, and he said sure, and I guess on the car ride home, his son asked his daughter if he could have the rest of her burrito, and she was like sure, and then he stops partway through and goes, why do you have extra? And his dad was like, well, he's like, we just stop, like we don't want, you don't have to eat all of it. You can just stop eating. And his kid, I guess, was like, Dad, I think I might have like an issue with food or overeating or something to that effect, right? And then the guy goes, he's like, I said to my kid, yeah, that's what we've been telling you all this time. And he said, and immediately the kid goes, geez, what, and the other guy on the podcast was like, oh man, he's like, and the guy's like, what did I do wrong? And the other guy goes, I'll tell you what you did wrong. He's like, you were treating him like an emotional equal. You were explaining to him, hey, we all have this, but you don't have to do that. You can, as an adult, make a decision, He goes, and then you went in and punched him with the dad card, with the told you so. And he goes, and you just ruined all the credibility you just built yourself. And when I heard that, I was like, that's so true. I've heard so many people do that, and I don't think people realize they do it. And that's kind of, with this, I think you have an opportunity to do that. It's one of those few times where I think you can actually talk to your kid like they're a person instead of a child. And you might get good results out of it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. What the hell do I know? I don't have kids, but,
yeah.
But we all know when we were kids, all you ever want is to be treated like an adult. You want to be talked to like an adult. You want to, you want all the things adults get. So it's rare when an adult actually gives you equal footing, So yeah, make sure, just keep the conversation open. Just make sure you talk to your kids about these kind of things, and not just kids. I mean, spouses, siblings, family, whatever. That's why, at the end of every show, when I'm, reach out to somebody, talk to people, because, communication, like Heno had said earlier, usually it's the people who don't say anything and then they do it, so if you can keep a line of conversation going and, learn the signs, which we've talked about on here before. I think we did an episode on it. And if not, you can find them all over the place on the internet, things to look for, in people to, if you think they may be feeling suicidal or whatever. So, just try to educate yourself as well. And now I'll shut up.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we've talked about a lot of different things on this podcast, and I know you have some opinions and thoughts that you want to share with us. So please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation. So you can reach us at the Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com is our email. Our website's thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. And you can reach me on Twitter's the easiest way to reach me at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with the G. You can also, if you want to hear more from me, you can hear me on Shake the Sheets at shakethesheets.com, which is a pop culture podcast that I do with my co-host, Nate. And Heno, how can they hear more from you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno. You can also search on Twitter for El Heno. You can find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. also on Messenger. And if you want to hear more from me, we just released a new episode on Moving the Needle podcast, Rocky versus Creed, 1976 versus 2000 something.
Oh, so that's what you did with the episode. So like the original Rocky movie versus the more recent Creed movie kind of a concept? Okay.
We go. So we talk about the one movie, we talk about the other movie, we review both, and then we compare both of them, and then everyone has to make a decision on which one they want. And we had a split decision.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
And actually, we had an email too, which is really interesting because somebody asked about we had an emailer ask us about the effect of what's happening with boxing, just in general, and if TV shows or anything happen to or movies could save boxing again. And we had a really great discussion about that too, because we just recently had the first Mexican descent heavyweight champion crowned, and there's some dispute over whether the other guy had a glass jar or whatever. But
there always is.
I thought, anyone that the guy was we talk a lot about eating issues here. This kid is not, he's a really big guy.
He's a big dude.
He's not svelte. And my thought was that someone like that is going to inspire more kids to take up boxing than any movie ever will.
That's probably true. You're right, because you look at him and go, "Hey, I could be that guy."
I can do that too. Exactly. So that's the other part of seeing something is you want to, it inspires you in a positive way.
Right. Nice. All right.
How can they reach you?
You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. Again, that show is not safe for work, so, earbuds in. You can find our Facebook group over at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. And we are part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. And also we're members of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the various podcasts on both of those networks. You're probably likely to find some other decent stuff. I hear Moving the Needles on the network, and that Salty Language program is also on there or something. I don't know. I mean, those are the only ones. That's all I would listen to. I wouldn't bother with anything else. So.
Yeah, just check out the Danger Pods.
Yeah, just. No, I'm kidding. As we've said a few times, I've said just a few minutes ago, reach out to people, make sure, just talk to everybody that you can, make sure they're doing okay. When you're talking to friends, just, check in on them, check in on your siblings, your, various other family, your kids, your best friends, whatever, and just make sure everything's going okay. It's amazing how many stories I've read over the years or heard over the years of somebody going, basically saying they were going to kill themselves or something, but then just at the right time, someone reached out to them, or just something happened that was just at the perfect time, and it made the difference. So, you just never know when something that you would take for granted could be, a huge moment in someone's life. And, of course, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of people out there willing to help you. We've got a list of stuff over on our Facebook group in the notes section, I believe it is, or files, whatever it's called, with a bunch of different phone numbers and stuff on there. But if you find yourself, needing help, please reach out to Suicide Prevention Hotline, or, just do a Google search for, help in your area or whatever. But please reach out. Again, there's so many people out there willing to help you. You're not alone. There's a whole bunch of us that have gone through whatever it is that you're going through, So, yeah, do that. And, just try to be nice to somebody. Whenever you get a chance, do something nice for someone. And also make sure you're being kind to yourself. Buy yourself five creamsicles or something. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Treat yourself.
All right, everyone, go out there, be healthy, have the best week you can.